Which hydroseeder is better? Today, we're going to find out. If you've spent any time in online forums, you've probably witnessed an odd phenomenon in the hydroseeding community, and it is the intense, sometimes very intense conversation between which type of hydroseeder is better, jet or mechanical. And I think people are actually asking the wrong question. It's not which machine is better, it's which machine is better for me. So today we're going to take a look at both types of hydroseeders. So hopefully you can make the right decision when you get started hydroseeding. And again, it's not right for everyone, it is what is right for you. So let's take a look at some of the differences, and then at the end of the video, I'll make a recommendation. Let's get started. So first machine that we'll take a look at is a mechanical, or sometimes known as a paddle agitated hydroseeder. It's up at the front of our property here and currently loaded onto our F450. Here it is. It's not much of a looker, mostly because I didn't clean it very well at the end of the season. But this is the Turf Maker 390, and it has served us really quite well. So what happens here is that this shaft has got these paddles attached to it, and at full throttle, those paddles are moving around pretty quick. And so that is the main mechanism, really the only mechanism, for processing the bales of mulch that you put into it. It is absolutely freezing here today, so I won't take too much longer out here, but I'll show you just a couple features of this machine and why I like it so much. One of the reasons I bought a Turf Maker was, one, it was more inexpensive compared to other models, but two, it is just so simple when compared to other mechanical hydroseeders. So here you have your engine. This is GX390, well suited for this machine. Here you have your gear driven pump, which is, in my opinion, much superior to a centrifugal pump like found on machines like Finn. But some of that's personal preference as well. And the plumbing is relatively simple, and then the controls, other than your throttle, it's really just two levers for your agitation and for your pump right here. And that is about it on this machine. I suspect someone without any hydroseeding experience at all, they could probably learn this machine pretty quickly. And especially if they had someone helping them, they could probably get the gist of it within a day or two. So yeah, really not too much to those machines. I'm gonna head back inside. We'll talk more about it there because it's like 10 degrees out. Okay, so let's talk about the pros and cons with a mechanically agitated seeder like the one we just saw. Pros, you're going to be able to shoot a variety of different mulches out of it, anywhere from 100% paper all the way to Flex Terra, which is a very heavy mulch. Some would argue the heaviest type of mulch that you can put through a hydroseeder. So if you're working commercial jobs, you're doing challenging work that's not just your average backyard, having a mechanically agitated machine that can shoot those types of mulches could be really important to you. Now, as far as the cons go, I think that maintenance, that will probably be a con for most people, as no one really likes doing the maintenance, but on a mechanical unit that has a lot more moving parts, that is going to be something that you'll need to take into consideration. So, things that will need to be replaced, or just need kind of work in general, you have your pump. Doesn't really matter what kind of pump you have, that will need repair eventually. Your pump housing, any sort of thing that can be greased, most often your bearings or your seals on the machine, those will just need to be replaced occasionally. It's not something that's going to need to be, every week, hopefully, but I would say at least plan on like once per season, there's going to be something major that you will need to replace, either just as a regular maintenance item or, because something is completely broken, the machine won't operate now without you fixing it. So just something to keep in mind on the maintenance side of things. Now, the biggest reason that people don't get into a mechanical unit is because of the cost, and they are quite a bit more pricey than jet units. So just know that heading into it as you're looking at machines. So with that unit that I showed you, it was, I believe, $16,500, and that was 3-4 years ago. It was a used unit as well. So if you are looking at mechanical units, just know that they're going to cost some money. I think that you could probably get into one, like maybe a base price for like $15,000, maybe $17,000, somewhere in there. But I would expect more, $20,000 plus for a similar sized unit, especially from Turfmaker. Turfmaker is quite a bit cheaper than some of the other manufacturers. I'm a little bit biased just because I have more experience with that one. I have run fins as well. Didn't care for them as much. Could probably be a whole separate video on that. But most of the people making mechanically agitated hydroseeders, they all shoot mulch really well. Just do your research. Talk to the people that are distributing them, and I'm sure you'll find one that's right for you. The other part of cost when it comes to mechanical hydroseeders is going to be just the transportation cost of hauling this around. It's likely that you won't be able to put most of your mechanically agitated hydroseeders in a 20 or 30-year-old pickup, but you're going to need some sort of heavier duty truck. I had that 450, just because they're a bit heavier, especially when they're loaded, and they just take up a lot more space. So it might be a more modern truck that you'd have to buy, or perhaps a trailer, but then again, you'd also have to make sure that your truck could pull that trailer. So some other things to take into consideration if you're thinking about a mechanical unit. Okay, let's take a look at a jet machine next. Okay, this is our jet unit that we manufacture. This is the HydroHog 110, 110 gallons on this specific model. The plumbing looks like a lot. It's really not. I'll show you that in a moment. This is a complete unit other than the fact that we don't have our branding on it yet. So we got to put our sticker on, and then it will be a complete machine. Taking a look inside the tank here, we have 2 jets that are pointing directly down into the tank. Probably hard to kind of see from this perspective, but those are pointing straight down. And when water is coming out of those, it keeps any of the mulch from settling at the bottom of the tank, allowing water and the mulch mixture to freely flow through that port there in the bottom. When it's at full throttle and the tank is full, on the side of the tank, you'll just notice that water is going around and around and around and around. And basically it's keeping everything homogeneous, keeping everything agitated, and breaking down the mulch in the process as well. The operation is fairly simple. Comes from the drain right there, that sump well, comes through here into the pump, which is run by the engine, and that pump shoots it to one of 2 places. It can either go out, which is where your hose would connect for the actual spraying of the hydroseed, or back into the tank itself. Okay, let's take a moment and talk about the pros and cons with a jet agitated hydroseeder like the HydroHog. Biggest pro is going to be the fact that they are incredibly inexpensive when compared to mechanical units. In a jet machine, you can often get a brand new jet machine for a fraction of the cost that you can get even a used mechanical machine, which is pretty significant. And so that's really attractive to some folks. Also, you don't have all of the kind of accessory costs like I was talking about. With the mechanical unit, you can basically throw this in the back of a pickup. We started with a 30-year-old F250 and worked just great. So you don't have quite the truck and towing burden that you would have with a larger mechanical unit. Another pro would be the maintenance. Almost no maintenance with a machine like this. Ours is like actually no maintenance. There's no greasing points, there's no moving parts. The only thing that's moving is the engine, the internals of the engine, and then the pump itself. The only thing that you would need to do with our machine anyways is make sure the water is out of it at the end of the season if you're in a climate where it freezes. So we really like that just because it allows our clients to focus more on the hydroseeding itself and making money rather than some of the other things that will kind of pop up with hydroseed maintenance from time to time. The last thing is going to be just how easy it is to learn. And I said that with the mechanical units as well, but I think where if you can teach someone to use a mechanical unit in a couple of days, you can teach someone to use a jet machine in a couple hours. And so very easy to learn. Or I should say most of them are easy to learn. I think this is where some of the frustration online comes from, is when a business owner first jumps into hydroseeding, sometimes they'll get connected with a jet unit that really just shouldn't be on the market. There are jet machines out there that just don't work, but people will continue to buy them because they're very cheap. And so I think that's where some of jet machines get their bad rap from, is just machines that need to be redesigned. And so keep that in mind as well when looking at hydroseeders, whether that be jet or mechanical to some extent. Just make sure that you're buying a machine that's been well designed and well tested. But generally, especially when talking about the HydroHog, very incredibly easy to learn. I think I could probably teach someone how to do this in about 10 minutes. Cons. Basically, it's this. You can't spray Flexterra in a jet machine. You can spray BFMs, as I've talked about in other videos, which is just an incredible technology and allows you to keep up with much of the work that you'd be doing with a mechanical machine. But you cannot spray Flexterra in a jet machine. Those BFMs, though, you can even spray one-to-one slopes. Like LSC, for example, they have a mulch called EarthGuard Edge. It comes in a pellet form, and you can spray one-to-one slope at, I think it's 3,000 pounds an acre, which is even less than Pro Matrix at that slope, which is just crazy. So definitely something to keep in mind if you have a hill. They are certainly doable with a jet machine. Okay, now before I get on to the final segment of this video where I want to give some recommendations, I want to take a moment and look at mulch costs, because that is usually something that comes up pretty early in conversations where someone's considering a jet machine, but they're concerned that because the mulch costs more money, that they're not going to be able to afford it or stay in business or charge enough money. So let's just take a moment and do a couple calculations and see exactly how long would it take someone doing business for it to be actually less expensive for them to buy a mechanical unit in the long run. Okay, so does the price difference between mulch really matter that much? That's the question I'm kind of after with this little exercise here. On the last page of my notebook, no less. Okay, so let's say, example one, you have a mechanical machine and it's 300 gallons. Or you choose to go the jet machine route, and that is also 300 gallons. Okay, great. There's actually a pretty handy little equation that we can use to figure this out. So if you're not math oriented, no problem. Just stick with me for just a moment. Okay, so I just looked it up. If you wanted to buy a turf maker, not 300, but 325, it is $16,400 as of January 2025. That also includes a hose package to get you started. Very good. Now, in other videos, we've talked about mulch prices. Let's just say, you want to use 70/30. It's pretty common. That is $23 per bale. So we'll do plus 23x because we want to find out how many bales we need to break even. Now, over here on the jet side, a 300-gallon tank. We don't currently make one of those. We have a 110 and a 200. So just looking on other jet manufacturers' pages, it looks like the average 300-gallon machine goes for about $8,000. And the average bag of pellet mulch is about $30. So you can see there is a difference. $23 for a bag of, or a bale of 70/30, or $30 for a bag of pelleted mulch, both 50 pounds. Okay, now let's do a little bit of math here to figure out how long we would need to wait until the mulch costs had evened out the cost of the hydroseeder. We can do that by subtracting 8,000 over here. We'll do the same to that side and get us 8,400 remaining. And then we can subtract this X number on both sides to leave us 7x. So essentially we have 8,400 is equal to 7x, divide by 7, and get my calculator out. What do we end up with? 8,400 divided by 7 equals, we end up with x equaling 1,200 bales / bags. So if you did go the jet machine route, you would need to buy or run through 1,200 bags in order to essentially catch up with the price it would have cost you to go the mechanical route. That is a lot of bags. So let's take this a couple steps further. How long would that take you, you think? Let's just say, so kind of new section here. Let's say, you just want to do 2 tanks a day. And you'll do that, say, 3 times a week. And there's 4 weeks in a month. And let's just say you do it for 6 months because that is the time of the year where you can effectively hydroseed, or at least that's similar to what it is here in the Midwest. 6 months. Okay, and I'll also put here, you want to do probably 3 bales per load, or 3 bags per load rather. Okay, so figure this out. We do 2 times 3 times 3 weeks times 4 weeks in a month times 6 months. And that gets us a nice 432 bags of mulch in 1 year. Okay. Interesting. So how many years would it take us? That would just be 1,200 divided by 432, assuming that we didn't grow the business at all, of course, but we know that we would. 1,200 divided by 432. Again, this is all just rough numbers, just to kind of give us an idea of how much or how little buying more expensive mulch is going to cost us over time. That would take you 2.78 years. So that is essentially the comparison. So you could operate a jet unit for almost 3 years before it became more economical to have bought the mechanical unit. It all depends on you. Is it worth it? Is it not? One other thing to take into consideration, we'll take this just one more step. During that almost 3 years, how much will you have profited? This is surprising. I did these calculations ahead of time, and even I was a little bit surprised. So let's say your profit margins, let's say you're charging 25 cents a square foot. You've got 7 cents in materials or somewhere around there, and you end up with 18 cents of profit per square foot. 0.018 profit. Very good. Now, of course, that doesn't take into consideration taxes and paying people and all that stuff, but again, this is just an example. Okay, so 0.18 profit, and how many square feet are you going to spray during that time? Well, a general rule of thumb I like to use is for every bag or bale of material, you can spray about 1,000 square feet. Again, not hard and fast, every site is different, but for this example, that's what we'll use. So if we have 1,200 bags of mulch, and each one of those bags covers 1,000 square feet, what do we end up with here? $1.2 million square feet covered in that 2.78 years. And we'll multiply that by our profit right here, 0.18. I know I'll need a calculator for that. 1.2 million square feet times 0.18. $216,000 of profit. That is some crazy money. So if you went and to save money to start, for example, bought a jet machine for, less than half of the cost, and you kept it for almost 3 years, you would have profited $216,000, at which point, if you did want to upgrade to a larger machine, to a mechanical machine, you certainly could. Quite the example. That's some serious money that one could make doing some hydroseeding. Okay, all of that to say, mulch costs are not going to bury you if you buy a jet machine. You can be successful with both types of machines. It's really just up to you. And this kind of leads into my next and final point in this video, which is talking about which type of hydroseeder are you, or which one do you think you are going to be here in the near future. I think that all people who hydroseed can be divided into 3 different categories. And I think that this definitely plays a part in the type of machine that you should buy. And so this is kind of the final consideration, I would say, as to what machine you ought to be looking for. Now, first category, I would say, are commercial hydroseeders. I would quantify commercial as being anything more than an acre. Of course, you get commercial projects that are less than an acre, but for the most part, you're a commercial hydroseeder if you're regularly spraying commercial jobs that are more than an acre in size. Now, if you are this type of hydroseeder, you should probably just have a mechanical unit. You can't really get jet machines that are over 1,000 gallons, at least to my knowledge. So if you're going to have, a 1,200 or a 2,000 or a, 3,000 gallon hydroseeder, you can't even get them in jet machines. So just get a mechanical unit. You can spray all the different types of mulch out of it you want. They're going to be the most efficient. You will have some maintenance. You will be paying a lot of money. But if you are spraying that much ground, it will likely be very much worth it. You can certainly get by with a jet machine for a time. However, that's probably more of a short-term solution, and you ought to consider upgrading at some point if you do get into commercial work. The second category is going to be residential. This is where I spend most of my time during the hydroseed season, is in residential jobs. And I would say that this is anything between, say, 3,000 square feet up to an acre, but most of the time it's probably going to be half acre or less. And I think that this is where a lot of the disagreement online comes from. And I think it's because both types of machines work so well in this space. You can get in there with a mechanical unit and do really well. You can also do really well with a jet machine. We started with a jet machine and eventually upgraded to a mechanical once we started getting jobs that were more than half an acre. But we still use both today. We use the turf maker and we use the HydroHog quite a bit. So I think that you can do really well with both types of machines. A lot of it will just go back to some of the things that we talked about earlier in this video. Price, maintenance, how much you're going to be using it, those types of considerations. Last category of hydroseeder I would like to talk to is the what I'll call spot sprayer. And a lot of times these are going to be like municipalities or utility workers, like for example, horizontal directional drilling. They might want to cover their entry sites, or cities might want to cover damage that was made by snowplows. Or even in the conservation space, I think there's a growing interest in hydroseed where, like hunters, for example, they're making food plots, and instead of hauling all their equipment out to the field to make these food plots, they can hydroseed it in a matter of minutes and be done. So if that's you, you're probably spraying anywhere from like real small area, like a few square feet, all the way to 1,000 square feet, but probably averaging, a couple hundred square feet in one spot. You might move to another spot, but you probably, one, don't need a very large tank, and two, probably don't want to spend a bunch of money on a hydroseeder either. If you're not doing this full time, if you're just doing it as a hobby, you probably don't want to drop, $10, $15, $20,000 on a hydroseeder. So the smaller units, ones that you can just pick up with a couple of guys and throw in the back of a UTV or a pickup truck, that might be more of your speed. And so I think that if you are doing spot treating, you could certainly have a mechanical unit if you wanted, but I think you'd be better suited with a jet agitated machine. Okay, I think that is all for this video. Hopefully I haven't stirred too much dissension. If you disagree with me though, would love to hear it. Leave it in the comment section. If you have suggestions for videos or questions, again, just leave it in the comment section and we'll get to it. And we'll see you in the next video.